So ladies and gentlemen, please go wild. I want stomping of feet, I want clapping, and I want yelling for Alan Matchett, the Country Group Manager from Visa. Over to you. Woo!
Thank you very much, Simon. That was a great effort to drum up some excitement and enthusiasm. And I do really hope that we're going to be able to have a good conversation around where certainly Visa's thinking payments are going. When I thought about what I wanted to talk about today, the reflection I had and where I've been spending my time over the past few months really has been knee-deep in the regulatory environment here in Australia, some of the risk environment here in Australia. We've been engaging heavily in New Zealand as well with the Commerce Commission as they've looked to make a number of very difficult changes. And I'm really pleased to not spend my time talking about that today, but rather spend some time thinking about what the next 5 to 10 years of payments are going to be. There is a great opportunity to speak to a group of fintechs about the design of how we take advantage of the changes that are coming. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to be here for a great deal of today, but I've heard a lot of interest in AI. It's on the tip of everyone's tongue. Every meeting I have, everyone's wondering about what's coming next. How might we engage with it? How are organizations of tomorrow going to kind of play differently with it? From a Visa lens, we are very, very focused in thinking about how it's going to enable a very different way of commerce. And as I reflect through, excuse the animations, a little bit of the history of commerce. I don't think there are many people in the room, probably beyond myself, who recognize that black and white picture and the very first ways that people started transacting out there beyond the initial usages of cash. Commerce does keep reinventing itself, that first in-person experience. Then we started thinking about telephones. I haven't seen one of those mag stripe examples in the bottom left for a long, long time. Then people started using telephone, e-commerce kind of came along, and now we're talking about the way agents are going to be involved in the commerce experience. The thing that's interesting to me as I look at that is the amount of friction in the payment. If we go back 40, 50, 60 years ago, the amount of friction in the payments we're seeing today. Embedded payments, I think of the Uber I took on my way here, I didn't think about the payment. It was frictionless, I was authenticated, my transaction details were probably fully tokenized, it was very safe, it was very secure, and that was probably the anchor, if you look through all of these different systems, was the trust in the system. Is I trusted that my credential, whether I did it with a mag stripe, I trusted my credential today with Uber would ensure that I was able to pay, that if something went wrong, I'd be able to be protected. I think of the merchant in that situation, the person offering the service, they would have been confident that they'd receive the money in real time, maybe a little bit longer, but they would have the confidence and they'd be able to decide how much risk they want to take in that transaction. But you come back to the heart of these conversations, trust is at the heart of that conversation. I know that using that credential, if something goes wrong, I'm going to get protected. And that's the heart of what we need to think about in an era of agentic commerce, is how do we participate in this new and very exciting payment ecosystem when agents start making decisions for what they will choose to buy and what they won't buy. And when we look to the future, and this is just a small piece of research we did here in Australia and New Zealand, 65% of Australian and New Zealand consumers are expecting to shop through agents in the next 5 years. So it's interesting when we start digging down into that, I'm not sure they really know what that means. I'm not sure we really know what it means. That's participating in this new ecosystem and economy is going to be all about trusting that your payment experience and your payment credentials, if you're a merchant, if you're a retailer, it's trusting that you're going to be able to decide how you want to authenticate, how you want to offer a payment experience in that environment. It's all about paying, getting paid, authentication, and I come back to that last point, that guarantee that it's going to work out the way you expect it to work out, that you're protected. So let's have a look at what some of those experiences might be.
Introducing Visa Intelligent Commerce, allowing AI to shop and buy. Add, smile, done. It's that simple. You're in control to make the final call. Or you set the limits and let it do the rest. New way to buy, same trusted, secure way to pay. Visa Intelligent Commerce. Use AI to buy.
So that gives you a little bit of the flavor of what we're expecting that experience to be. And if we start off thinking of that example of what does it look like for me as an individual, and some of the payment experiences we're expecting to apply. In fact, later this year, we're expecting to see the first examples of this drop. Take the example of the headphones. I'm interested in buying a new set of headphones. I'm going to be able to load an agent up and ask that agent, please go and buy me the latest and greatest. I'm happy to spend this much. I'm happy for you to go and take that action on my behalf as an agent, and to be able to trust that agent to make the decision. That agent's going to have to be authenticated. There's going to have to be a mechanism to make sure that if the headphones don't get to me, if there's some kind of fraud, if there's some kind of non-delivery, that the protections play through, that whole trust experience that comes through great and the glitzy ad really translates into a very human experience. Similarly, if we're going to have a think of a merchant experience, and I want to spend a little bit more time here, let's think about, maybe Raj is a ceramics creator. He's an artist here in Melbourne. Today, he's probably selling his ceramics through some kind of marketplace. Maybe he's going on the weekends to certain markets. He's probably through some kind of art dealership system. He's probably paying pretty large commissions. His margins are under a lot of pressure because he's going to be paying a lot of way to get that distribution. In an agentic commerce world, there's the likelihood of an agent out there somewhere that's going to be able to find him without having to pay the most for search, without having to be on the most popular aggregator websites, because he's going to be available to show something through an agentic environment that people are going to be able to find. So when you search for homemade ceramics, ceramics with certain colors, who knows what it is that Raja's speciality is? He's going to be able to have an agent that supplies and operates within that ecosystem, and the person buying in London, New York, Madrid, Singapore is going to be able to find him in a way that's very, very different to how it feels today. Now, that's our guess of the way that ecosystem is going to operate. I think there's a very big question of what there really will be in this ecosystem for buyers and sellers. The heart of this all remains the same, and that's that we're going to have an ecosystem that's really trusted, safe, and secure. And when we think about what that looks like from a Visa lens, this is the intelligence commerce platform that we've now offered and is available, and that sandbox is out there. And we in fact have a number of clients from here in Australia, New Zealand, and around Asia who are operating within the sandbox and using these 5 APIs that are available to enable this commerce today. Let's start with things that are ready today, and it's where we in Australia are really well ahead of the pack in terms of having AI-ready cards already loaded within the ecosystem. They're tokenized, they're fully available for authentication using whether it's biometrics or other means. That means that people are able to use those credentials wherever they're keen to use those credentials. And the good news is they're very secure, they're tokenized. So when that credential gets loaded into the OpenAI platform when you want to go shopping, that token knows it can only be used by that agent. The rules associated with that token are tight. $200 max spend. Anything over $200, check with me. Only spend at websites that have a trust score above 4. There's the ability to choose exactly how much control you want to give. And that tokenization, that protection, the authentication engine that supports that means that customers really have the power in their own hands to give that agent the option to do what's needed. The personalization is a really important part and something we think that's going to be quite a differentiator of what we can bring to the market. Of course, the heart of AI and agentic commerce is all about the ability to have the commerce, to have the agent shop on your behalf and know you. One of the things that we've introduced is a personalization capability where you will be able to use, or the agent will be able to use, if you opt in, of course it's at your own control, your credential and where your credential's been used and how much has been spent on your credential relative to others all over the world. Are you a shopper that likes high-end hotels? Are you buying from Kmart and Target? Or are you a Gucci and Hermes shopper? The color, the insight that can be generated from that so that the agent is able to make a decision on what's going to be the right thing to offer to you, we think is going to be incredibly powerful. And then that simple and secure payment at the end. So the payment instruction, of course, is going to be fully recorded. Now, it sounds really simple. It's what we do today. VisaNet's been doing this for 60 years. But when we think of that a little bit more, who's actually making the decision? So I've given control to an agent. I've asked the agent to go do something on my behalf. But it's not the agent that's making the buying call. And when the agent goes and shops, maybe it's interacting with someone else's agent. And that agent is accepting the buy signal that the merchant is then fulfilling. And how do we know what's been delivered? Was there a service? Was there a good? Was it those headphones? Is it a pair of shoes? Is it a holiday? Is it a plane ticket? We need to make sure that those signals, that everything that's happened through that payment journey is really well recorded, because that's where the heart of trust comes in. Because if something goes wrong, that zero liability guarantee that's been at the heart of Visa building trust through a payments ecosystem for the last 60 years, that's where it flows through. So that's how we ensure liability. That's how we ensure that if something goes wrong, there is the opportunity for the detail of that to be looked at and for the liability to be assigned. It also gives options for me as a user, as a buyer, to be able to say, I'm happy to take a bit more risk. I'm happy to spend a little bit less on those tickets in the hope I can get someone, I don't know, scalping something that's maybe a little bit wrong, or I want to make sure it is absolute gold class, and I'm going to spend the most on it, and I want to have the absolute certainty that when I'm buying tickets to the next football game, I want the guarantee it's there. Think about that from a merchant perspective. We know that friction is the enemy of sales, and particularly in an online environment, that friction often gets in the way of people completing a transaction. So the opportunity arises here for a merchant to decide how much friction do they want to put into that experience. Because they're dealing with an agent, maybe they want a higher level of authentication, maybe they want less. The opportunity to design this, but then make sure the clarity of information and quality of information flowing through is as good as it can be, is a very important opportunity. So let's have a think about what this means for your customers. For fintech's customers, for small organizations, for larger organizations. For consumers, the heart remains safety and simplicity. If I'm doing an agentic commerce transaction, that bar of friction needs to be so low. I need to have my credentials loaded. I need to be auto-authenticated. It needs to be safely tokenized. I need to be protected when my agent goes and shops. But when you think about what that opens up, the ease of being able to find the right thing, the right place, anywhere, anytime, and an agent doing that on your behalf, that is a fantastic opportunity of removing almost that last little bit of friction of go. Imagine the ability to say, I want something now, agent, go and source it for me. Go do all the research, and the shopping just happens. It creates a fantastic opportunity for every single consumer out there when this becomes alive. For small businesses, acceptance is now almost frictionless. The opportunity to decide exactly how you want to operate, to have your agent decide how it wants to operate for a local transaction, international transaction, how they're going to route a transaction. Every single component of that suddenly becomes available for your agent as a small business to be able to offer something a little bit different. And then for larger organizations, we actually think there's a lot of opportunity for agents to be able to operate in many B2B ecosystems. When we think about the way B2B payments work, today, for example, accounts receivables, accounts payables, those are clunky. Those cost on average over $80 per every accounts receivable, account payable opportunity. Imagine you had an agent that was able to solve for that as a large organization. We're exploring a lot of these different use cases out there, and there is a lot of opportunity. We've created a bit of a vision for the way this might work, but the fundamentals of what we have tried to create here is an ecosystem to give consumers, businesses, big and small, the opportunity to experiment. And it's exciting to be talking to a group of fintechs about how they might envisage this. We certainly don't think we have a great grip on exactly how this is going to play out. The opportunity to bring this capability with agents together with all the other changes and exciting opportunities within payments ecosystems to make things easier for consumers, safer for businesses to be able to transact is just enormous. And when we think about what the future brings, in 2030, we absolutely think the average Australian is going to be doing more with agents than they'll be doing themselves. We think that opportunity, when we think of the speed of the way agentic commerce is growing, the way people are using Gen AI, the speed with which that's being adopted, we think that's an enormous opportunity for all of us to take advantage of, but it's going to change the way that commerce operates. We think by 2035, 80% of all commerce is going to be handled by agents. I think it's a very exciting lens to bring to think about the rapid growth of commerce, the change in commerce, and the way that's going to be able to create opportunity. Now, this group here is the one that gets to take advantage of that. I suppose that's the point I wanted to finish off on, is we are very, very keen to see how we can partner, how we can bring the rules, the structure, the ways of being able to transact in this new ecosystem. It's changing quickly. The next box, if I go back right to the beginning of those pictures, is going to have an agent up there. Now, what that agent does is completely open. We think the heart of it is going to require us to be very focused on maintaining that trust, that security for absolutely everyone in the ecosystem. Having that safe and secure way of transacting is the anchor, but then what you do with that is frankly absolutely open slather for all those who have a great idea for changing the experiences and changing the way that people are going to be able to transact into the future. That's Visa's role. We're excited about creating that ecosystem, creating a space where buyers and sellers were able to still take advantage of these credentials. And at Visa, our tagline is the best way to pay and be paid. And that absolutely remains our vision going forward in the world of agentic commerce. Thank you very much. That's all I had to share. I'm very happy to take questions.